President Donald Ramotar lauds contributions made by CARICOM and its staffers to the region's development. Head of State joins over 70 other world leaders in South Africa at the memorial service for the late South African President and freedom fighter Nelson Mandela, and Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic ambassador is accredited. We'll have the details of these and other presidential activities in this week's edition of the Diary for the period December 7 to December 13. I'm your host, Paul McAdam. President Ramotar lauds contributions made by CARICOM and its staffers to the region's development. The efforts of CARICOM and the resultant benefits to the Caribbean and its people were acknowledged by President Donald Ramotar when he delivered brief remarks at a ceremony on November 6 at the Princess International Hotel to mark the organization's 40th year of service to the region. The President said that he recognized the organization's work in making the dream of closer and stronger ties between member states a reality.
In this world, this globalized world that we're living in, the need for us to have stronger and closer relations is indeed very, very important. And we have, in many, many ways, I think, in our region, we have conditions to help us to move closer together. We have a common history, and I detect too that among the people of the region, the ordinary people of the region, that they too desire that we come closer together as one people.
CARICOM staffers, whom the Secretary General, Orwin Rock, described as having served with commitment and unflinching dedication for 20 years or more, were honored with various tokens and awards for their long service to the organization and the region. In 1972, Commonwealth leaders at the 7th Heads of Government Conference decided to transform the Caribbean Free Trade Association, CARIFTA, into a common market and establish the Caribbean Community. The President joined over 70 other world leaders in South Africa on December 10 at the memorial service for the late South African President and freedom fighter Nelson Mandela. The President noted that the former freedom fighter was highly loved and respected the world over, and his memory will forever be cherished. In paying tribute, the President said that Mandela's name and work will endure throughout the ages. The former South African President and freedom fighter Nelson Mandela died at the age of 95 of complications from a recurring lung infection. The anti-apartheid leader and Nobel Peace Prize laureate was a beloved figure around the world, a symbol of reconciliation from a country with a brutal history of racism. He was released from prison in 1990 after serving close to 30 years for plotting to overthrow South Africa's apartheid government. In 1994, in a historic election, he became that nation's first black president. He stepped down in 1999 after a single term and retired from political and public life. In a televised message to the nation, President Donald Ramotar described the late South African President Mandela's passing as a loss, which was not just one for the people of South Africa, but one for Africa as a whole and the world at large. Addressing the congregation of a church which was celebrating the 6th anniversary, the Prime Minister and Acting President Samuel Hinds said that the example set by the late South African President is one which many of those who aspire to be leaders should emulate. Prime Minister Samuel Hinds was addressing the membership of the Deliverance Assemblies of God Church in Seafield, Sophia, on December 8, which had celebrated its 6th anniversary. He described Nelson Mandela as an advocate for justice and independence, and lauded him for the role he played in the lives of not only the people of South Africa, but around the world.
He came out of prison preaching justice for all, black and white, even coming from the time of apartheid, preaching justice for all, black and white, when democracy would have been restored. It was fit and proper and correct to fight against apartheid. And all who supported apartheid, whether in South Africa itself or anywhere around the world, until apartheid fell. Mandela recognized and took on the job of advocating new attitude a new relationship after apartheid was ended.
He added that now that Ghana is an independent nation, the people must reflect on how they're living and they should think of how they can do better.
If we're doing the best we can do at that time and planning to do better, working to do better, so be it. But if it is that we are not doing the best that we could do at the time, and if it is we are not thinking together how we could do better tomorrow and the day after, then that is not a good situation. Then we are not really being the independent persons, the responsible persons that we ought to be.
Prime Minister Samuel Hinds told the congregation that they should take pleasure in the many developments that have been occurring and not to think that their struggle is greater or lesser than anyone else's. You're watching The Diary, where we have been recapping the highlights of the country's president's weekly activities. More after the break.
Guyana needs a new modern international airport which will increase air travel and will directly lead to an increase in economic activity for many sectors and individuals. This will firmly place Guyana on the road to modern advancement, which is necessary for the economic transformation of the country. The new infrastructure will accommodate the widest variety of aircraft type, and the expanded CJIA will also allow Guyana to be the South American hub for international travel into Europe. But the political opposition, however, does not feel it is necessary for the economic transformation of the country. They severed financial allocations to this transformational project in an attempt to strangle development. All Guyanese need to be on board with this major transformational project. About 190,000 students have benefited from government's school uniform program in 2013. Guyana is the only CARICOM country that is providing this form of assistance for its students to ensure all can access education. This initiative caters for students from nursery level to grade 11.
The government of Guyana, through the Amerindian Affairs Ministry, has launched a comprehensive youth apprenticeship and entrepreneurial program. This initiative addresses youth development and empowerment and is designed to meet the objective of securing indigenous livelihood by developing the capacity and capability of youths. The program is being implemented in regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, benefiting close to 1,000 people between the ages of 18 to 40 years.
Prime Minister and Acting President Samuel Hinds welcomed the investment made by Ghana Goldfields Mining Company.
We have to be open to the world. If not, in this case, taking this development as an example, we would have to have saved ourselves and accumulated some over $200 million now to put into the mine, into the plant construction now. But maybe, I don't know what's the figure on the books, but it could easily be another tens of millions of dollars spent over the last 15 or more years in the exploration and prospecting and delineating of it. So if we didn't have partners, those would be things we would have to address. And then in designing the plant and operating the plant later on, I have no doubt that we have amongst us people who could develop the skills, but this design that would be put in place probably comes out of 100 years or more of experience, which, if we were doing it on our own, say, would not necessarily have been available to us.
Prime Minister Samuel Hinds added that the experience, expertise and technologies which the investors are bringing into the country would have been difficult and time-consuming if they were to be sourced locally. He said that the need for markets overseas to bring in the necessary income needed to further develop Guyana is also essential.
Our challenge is to develop partnerships, and good partnerships with the people of the world. We must be open to the world. Yes, there's good and bad people in Guyana and out of Guyana, and we have to develop the ability to recognize people whom we could develop good partnerships with.
The more than $200 million investment is expected to be the second largest such one in the mining sector after that made by the Omai Mining Company. Approximately 600 Guyanese will eventually be employed at the site, which is along the Cuyuni River in Essequibo. The Canadian-owned company also has the full support of that nation's government. More of the diary after this break.
Millions of taxpayers' dollars have already been spent on the Amalia Falls hydropower project, which is now in its final stages of achieving financial closure. However, the APNU and AFC teamed up in Parliament to kill the project without any valid reason, and in so doing taking cheap electricity out of the reach of Guyanese. Frustrating a project of this magnitude at this stage is tantamount to strangling the country's development and putting at stake the future of every man, woman and child.
Guyana needs a new modern international airport which will increase air travel and will directly lead to an increase in economic activity for many sectors and individuals. This will firmly place Guyana on the road to modern advancement, which is necessary for the economic transformation of the country. The new infrastructure will accommodate the widest variety of aircraft type, and the expanded CJIA will also allow Guyana to be the South American hub for international travel into Europe. But the political opposition, however, does not feel it is necessary for the economic transformation of the country. They severed financial allocations to this transformational project in an attempt to strangle development. All Guyanese need to be on board with this major transformational project. About 190,000 students have benefited from government's school uniform program in 2013. Guyana is the only CARICOM country that is providing this form of assistance for its students to ensure all can access education. This initiative caters for students from nursery level to grade 11.
The government of Guyana, through the Amerindian Affairs Ministry, has launched a comprehensive youth apprenticeship and entrepreneurial program. This initiative addresses youth development and empowerment and is designed to meet the objective of securing indigenous livelihood by developing the capacity and capability of youths. The program is being implemented in regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, benefiting close to 1,000 people between the ages of 18 to 40 years.
President Ramatar has accredited a new ambassador to Guyana. The appointment of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic's first ambassador, Mr. Lehibib Abdulrahman Didi, was welcomed by Prime Minister Samuel Hinds, who was performing the duties of president.
It is a distinct pleasure for me to accept the letters of credence by which His Excellency Mohammed Abdelaziz, President of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, accredits you as non-resident ambassador to the Republic of Guyana. I would ask that you convey to your esteemed President our appreciation of his kind greetings, together with best wishes from the government and people of Guyana for his personal well-being and for the progress and prosperity of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. Your Excellency, Guyana fully subscribes to the unlimited respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity and the inviolability of states, and the support for any people legitimately seeking to exercise their right to self-determination, consistent with the principles and purposes of the Charter of the United Nations. Our government has been guided by these principles in respect of the aspirations of the people of the through the several resolutions which have been adopted in the Special Political and Decolonization Committee of the United Nations. The decision to establish diplomatic relations and to accredit an ambassador is testimony to our continued support for the ideals and noble objectives of your country.
The new ambassador said he was proud to be his country's first representative to Guyana.
The distinct pleasure, Mr. Prime Minister, to convey to you, to the President of the Republic of Guyana, the people of Guyana, our nation, the cordial greetings and best wishes of the President of the Sahrawi Democratic Republic. For me, it's a source of pride to be the first Sahrawi ambassador to my country, to Guyana. That is to say, it is both natural and logical that the Sahrawi people, which still struggling to complete the decolonization of the territory, in that have always looked to your great country as a strong defender of liberty, democracy, and the respect for fundamental human and people's right to self-determination is represented to Guyana.
The SADR is a small state that claims sovereignty over the entire territory of Western Sahara, a former Spanish colony. At least 40 other nations recognize and maintain diplomatic ties with the SADR.
A top Caribbean Rotary International official pays a courtesy call on the head of state as part of efforts to increase cooperation with government in key areas.
Rotary International, one of the world's leading humanitarian non-governmental organizations, is seeking to enhance its ties locally and is moving towards partnering with government in several areas.
I'm the district governor of the District 7030, including the Southern Island of the Caribbean and the three Guyanas, and in my official visit to see how we can support the Rotary Club in Guyana to doing better for the communities. And in this way, I have a meeting with the president to have connection between Rotary and the government, because our purpose, as I said, is to doing good for our community. So, and one of the good results of the meeting is we decided to have a meeting between the president of the Rotary Club of Guyana with AG Assistant Governor Marcel Gaskin, who is my special representative in Guyana, to see how we can work with the government of the benefit, for the benefit of the people in Guyana.
Guyana's District Governor, Marcel Gaskin, outlined some of the areas in which Rotary seeks to offer assistance.
We focus on literacy, water and sanitation, health, inform a lot of medical outreaches, and we want to do some conflict resolution, but we haven't gotten into that here in Guyana yet.
Honore, who hails from Martinique and has responsibility for the Guyanas and the islands of the Southern Caribbean, met several stakeholders before his departure from Guyana on December 13.
That's all in this week's diary for the period December 7 to December 13. Before we go, these were some of the highlights. President Donald Ramotar lauds the contributions made by CARICOM and its staffers to the region's development. Head of State joins over 70 other world leaders in South Africa's memorial service for the late South African President and freedom fighter Nelson Mandela, and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic ambassador is accredited. Do join us again for the next program when we will bring you more of the President's activities. I'm your host, Paul McAdam, thanking you for joining us. Do have a pleasant rest of the week. President delivers first.